What if the person who loves you most started pushing you away right before their biggest moment? Sophia Jenkins stared at her phone screen, reading the same message for the 10th time. Her husband Daniel had just sent her the most confusing text to their 5-year marriage. He didn't want her at his promotion gala. The same gala she had helped him prepare for. The same gala where he was supposed to become the youngest director in his company's history. Sophia had always been Daniel's biggest supporter. She was the one who stayed up late helping him practice his presentations. She was the one who researched cultural differences when his company started expanding into Asian markets. She was the one who celebrated every small win and comforted him through every setback. But now, on the most important night of his career, he was telling her to stay home. The message was cold and direct. No explanation. No apology. Just a simple request that felt like a punch to the gut. Sophia had built her entire identity around being Daniel's partner. Not just his wife, but his true partner in everything. They had met in graduate school where she was studying cultural anthropology and he was getting his MBA. They bonded over late-night study sessions and shared dreams of changing the world through their work. When Daniel got his first job at Horizon Innovations, Sophia was right there cheering him on. When he struggled with understanding the cultural nuances of international business deals, she was there to help. She had spent countless hours explaining the subtle differences between Japanese business culture and American corporate practices. She had helped him understand why certain negotiations failed and others succeeded. Their partnership wasn't just romantic, it was intellectual, it was professional. It was everything Sophia had ever wanted in a relationship. But now, reading this message, she wondered if she had been fooling herself all along. Maybe Daniel had outgrown her. Maybe he was embarrassed by her academic background. Maybe he wanted to present himself as a self-made success story without mentioning the wife who had helped him understand the very cultures that made him valuable to his company. Sophia's mind raced through all the possibilities. Had she been too involved in his career? Had she overstepped boundaries? She remembered all the times she had offered insights about cultural differences during his work calls. She remembered the research papers she had shared with him. She remembered the way his eyes lit up when she explained why certain business practices worked in some countries, but not others. But maybe that was the problem. Maybe Daniel felt like he couldn't take full credit for his successes because everyone knew how much his wife had contributed. Maybe he wanted this promotion to be his alone. Maybe he needed to prove that he could succeed without her constant input and support. The thought made Sophia's stomach twist. She had never asked for credit. She had never demanded recognition. She had simply done what she thought partners were supposed to do. Support each other, help each other grow, share knowledge and insights, build something together that was bigger than what either of them could create alone. But now she was questioning everything. Had she been naive to think that Daniel valued their partnership the way she did? Had she been reading too much into their relationship? Maybe what she saw as collaboration, he saw as dependency. Maybe what she saw as partnership, he saw as limitation. Sophia walked to their bedroom and looked at the dress she had bought for the gala. It was elegant but not flashy, professional but feminine. She had chosen it carefully, wanting to look like the supportive wife of a successful executive while also representing her own accomplishments as a cultural anthropologist. She had imagined walking into that room with Daniel, proud to be by his side as he accepted this promotion that they had worked toward together. Now the dress hung there like a symbol of her misplaced confidence. She had assumed she would be welcome. She had assumed Daniel would want her there. She had assumed their marriage was strong enough to weather any corporate politics or professional pressures. The worst part was the timing. Daniel's promotion was based largely on his success with international clients, particularly in Asia. And Sophia knew, even if no one else did, that much of that success came from her research and insights. She had spent years studying cultural anthropology, focusing specifically on business practices in different societies. When Daniel's company started expanding into Japan, she had been the one to explain the importance of relationship building in Japanese business culture. She had been the one to help him understand why direct confrontation was counterproductive and why patience was essential. But now, on the night when Daniel would be celebrated for that very success, she was being told to stay home. It felt like being erased from her own story, like watching someone else take credit for work you had contributed to, but having no way to prove your involvement because it had all happened behind closed doors, in private conversations between husband and wife. Sophia sat on the edge of their bed, still holding her phone. She wanted to call Daniel and demand an explanation. She wanted to ask him why he was shutting her out. She wanted to know if their marriage was falling apart and she had been too blind to see it. But something held her back. Maybe it was pride. Maybe it was fear. Maybe it was the hope that there was some explanation that would make sense of this sudden coldness. She thought about their early years together, how they had dreamed of building something meaningful, how they had talked about combining her academic expertise with his business acumen to create something unique, how they had imagined traveling the world together, helping companies navigate cultural differences while building their own relationship across the differences in their backgrounds and career paths. Those dreams felt so far away now. Sophia remembered the exact moment when everything had started to change. It was about 6 months ago when Daniel's company had landed a massive contract with a Japanese manufacturing firm. The deal was worth $50 million, and it had almost fallen through because of cultural misunderstandings. Daniel had come home frustrated and defeated, ready to accept that the deal was lost. But Sophia had spent the entire night helping him understand what had gone wrong. She had explained the concept of saving face in Japanese culture. She had helped him craft a response that acknowledged the cultural gap without placing blame. She had taught him about the importance of building personal relationships before discussing business terms. She had even helped him understand the significance of gift-giving and the proper way to show respect to elder business partners. The next week, Daniel had flown to Tokyo with a completely different approach. Instead of pushing for quick results, he had spent time building relationships. Instead of focusing solely on numbers and contracts, he had shown genuine interest in understanding his Japanese partner's perspectives. Instead of rushing through meetings, he had allowed time for proper introductions and relationship building. The deal had not only been saved, but had become the foundation for an ongoing partnership that brought in millions of dollars in revenue for Horizon Innovations. Daniel had been praised throughout the company for his cultural sensitivity and international business skills. He had been featured in company newsletters and industry publications as an example of how to successfully navigate cross-cultural business relationships. But Sophia had never been mentioned. Not once. Not in any of the articles or company communications. Not in any of the presentations Daniel had given about the success of the Tokyo deal. It was as if her contribution had never existed. As if Daniel had somehow developed this expertise entirely on his own. At the time, Sophia had told herself it didn't matter. She had been proud of Daniel's success and happy that her knowledge had been put to good use. She had believed that their marriage was strong enough that recognition wasn't necessary. She had thought that Daniel knew how much she had contributed, and that was enough. But now, looking back, she wondered if Daniel had started to believe his own story. Maybe he had convinced himself that he really had developed those skills independently. Maybe he had forgotten how much help he had received. Maybe he had started to see Sophia's contributions as less significant than they actually were. The phone rang, interrupting her thoughts. She looked at the screen and saw an unknown number. Normally she would have let it go to voicemail, but something made her answer. "Hello, is this Sophia Jenkins?" The voice was professional but warm, with a slight accent that Sophia couldn't quite place. "Yes, this is Sophia. My name is Margaretchen. I'm the CEO of Horizon Innovations. I was hoping we could meet for coffee this afternoon. There's something important I need to discuss with you." Sophia's heart started beating faster. Why would Daniel's boss want to meet with her? Especially on the day of his promotion gala? Had something gone wrong? Had Daniel's promotion been cancelled? Had he been fired? "I'm sorry, but I'm not sure why you would want to meet with me. If this is about Daniel, maybe you should speak with him directly." "Actually, this is about you, Sophia. And it's about Daniel too. But I really need to speak with you in person. Can you meet me at the coffee shop on 5th Street in an hour?" Sophia's mind was racing. She had never spoken to Margaretchen before, though she had heard Daniel mention her many times. Margaret was known throughout the industry as a brilliant businesswoman who had built Horizon Innovations from a small startup into a major international corporation. She was also known for her direct communication style and her ability to see potential in people that others missed. "I'll be there," Sophia said, not really knowing why she was agreeing to this strange meeting. An hour later, Sophia sat across from Margaretchen in a small coffee shop, feeling completely out of place. Margaret was younger than she had expected, probably in her early 40s, with sharp eyes and an expensive suit that somehow managed to look both professional and approachable. "Thank you for coming," Margaret said, stirring her coffee slowly. "I know this must seem unusual, but I needed to speak with you before tonight's gala." "About what exactly?" Margaret smiled. "About the fact that Daniel's promotion isn't really just Daniel's promotion. It's yours too." Sophia stared at her, not understanding what she meant. "Let me explain," Margaret continued. 6 months ago, our company was about to lose a $50 million deal with Yamamoto Industries in Tokyo. Daniel had been working on this deal for months, but something wasn't working. The cultural barriers seemed impossible to overcome. Our entire Asia expansion strategy was at risk. Sophia nodded, remembering how frustrated Daniel had been during that time. "Then something changed," Margaret said. "Daniel went back to Tokyo with a completely different approach. He understood things about Japanese business culture that our entire international team had missed. He navigated complex relationship dynamics that had been blocking progress for months. He saved the deal and created a partnership that has become the foundation of our entire Asian market strategy." "Daniel is very talented," Sophia said carefully. Margaret leaned forward. "Daniel is talented, but Daniel didn't develop that cultural expertise overnight. Someone taught him. Someone with deep knowledge of cultural anthropology and international business practices. Someone who understood the academic research but could also translate it into practical business applications." Sophia felt her cheeks getting warm. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Yes, you do," Margaret said gently. "Daniel has been very honest with me about how much you've contributed to his success. He's told me about the late-night research sessions. He's told me about the cultural insights you've provided. He's told me about the way you've helped him understand not just what to do, but why it works." Sophia was speechless. She had assumed Daniel had been taking credit for her contributions. She had thought he was embarrassed by how much help he had received. "That's why I wanted to meet with you," Margaret continued. "Because tonight isn't just about promoting Daniel to director. Tonight is about announcing something that has never been done before in our company's history. We're creating a new division focused on international cultural integration. And we want both of you to lead it. Together." Sophia felt like the room was spinning. "I don't understand." "Daniel's promotion is to co-director of our new cultural integration division. Your appointment is to the same position. You'll be working together to help our company navigate cultural differences in all our international markets. It's a position that combines academic research with practical business applications. It's exactly what you've been doing informally, but now it will be your official role. But I don't work for Horizon Innovations. I'm just a consultant." "Not anymore," Margaret said with a smile. "If you accept this position, you'll be a full-time director with equity in the company and complete creative control over how we approach international cultural integration. You'll have a team of researchers working under you, and you'll be developing training programs for all our international divisions." Sophia's mind was reeling. This was everything she had ever dreamed of, a chance to use her academic knowledge in a practical way that could make a real difference, a chance to work alongside Daniel as true partners, not just in marriage but in their careers. "Why didn't Daniel tell me about this?" Margaret laughed. "Because he was terrified. He's been planning this for months, working with me to create this position specifically for you. But he was afraid you would say no. He was afraid you would think he was trying to control your career, or that you wouldn't want to work so closely with him. That's why he didn't want me at the gala tonight." "Actually, that's not exactly true," Margaret said, pulling out her phone. "Daniel sent you that message because he was nervous about surprising you. He wanted to make sure you came to the gala, but he was afraid that if you knew what was going to happen, you might not show up." She showed Sophia a text message from Daniel. "I'm freaking out. What if she says no? What if she thinks this is too much? What if she doesn't want to work with me?" Sophia stared at the messages, realizing how wrong she had been about everything. Daniel hadn't been pushing her away. He had been trying to pull her closer. He hadn't been embarrassed by her contributions. He had been trying to find a way to make them official. "There's something else," Margaret said. "Daniel has been working on something special for tonight. Something that goes beyond just the business announcement." She handed Sophia an envelope. "He asked me to give you this before the gala. He said it would explain everything. Sophia opened the envelope with shaking hands. Inside was a letter in Daniel's handwriting. My dearest Sophia, if you're reading this, then Margaret has already told you about the position. I hope you're not angry with me for keeping this secret. I wanted to surprise you, but I also wanted to make sure everything was perfect before I told you about it. You've been my partner in everything we've accomplished, and I want the world to know that. Tonight, at the gala, I'm going to ask you to marry me again. Not because we need to get married again, but because I want to publicly acknowledge that everything I've achieved has been because of our partnership. I want everyone to know that my success is our success. I want to renew our vows in front of everyone who matters to us professionally, because I want them to understand that we're not just married, we're true partners in every sense of the word. I love you, and I hope you'll say yes to both the job and the proposal. Daniel. Sophia felt tears streaming down her face. She had been so wrong about everything. Daniel hadn't been pushing her away. He had been planning the most beautiful gesture she could imagine. He had been working to create a future where they could be true partners, not just at home but in their careers. So, Margaret said gently, will you accept the position? Sophia looked up at her, wiping away her tears. Yes. Absolutely yes. That evening, Sophia walked into the gala wearing the dress she had chosen so carefully. But now she felt completely different. Instead of feeling like an outsider, she felt like she belonged. Instead of feeling like she was being erased from Daniel's story, she felt like she was about to become an official part of it. When Daniel saw her enter the room, his face lit up with relief and joy. He walked over to her immediately, taking her hands in his. You came, he said. Of course I came. We're partners, remember. The rest of the evening was like a dream. Margaret announced the new Cultural Integration Division and introduced both Daniel and Sophia as co-directors. The room erupted in applause, and several people came up to congratulate them both. Then, in front of everyone, Daniel got down on one knee and proposed to Sophia again, explaining to the room that he wanted everyone to know that his success was really their success. Sophia said yes, just as she had 5 years earlier. But this time felt different. This time, she felt like she was being seen and valued for who she really was. This time, she felt like a true partner. Over the following months, Sophia threw herself into her new role. She developed training programs that helped Horizon Innovation's employees understand cultural differences in dozens of countries. She created research protocols that saved the company millions of dollars by preventing cultural misunderstandings before they could derail important deals. She built a team of cultural consultants who worked with every international division in the company. But most importantly, she and Daniel developed what became known as the Jenkins Method, an approach to international business that combined technical expertise with cultural understanding. Their method was so successful that other companies began hiring them as consultants. They co-authored a book about their approach that became required reading in business schools around the world. Years later, when they founded the Jenkins Institute for International Business Relations, Sophia often thought back to that day when she had received Daniel's confusing text message. She realized that the moment when she had felt most disconnected from Daniel had actually been the moment when he was working hardest to create a deeper connection. Their story became an inspiration to other couples who were trying to balance personal and professional partnerships. Sophia and Daniel proved that it was possible to be married and to work together successfully, as long as both partners were willing to communicate openly and support each other's individual growth. The Jenkins Institute grew into one of the most respected research organizations in the field of international business relations. But for Sophia and Daniel, the real success was the partnership they had built together. They had learned that love wasn't just about supporting each other through difficult times. It was about creating opportunities for each other to shine. And that was the love that Sophia had always received, even when she couldn't see it. It was the love that looks for ways to lift up your partner, even when it means taking risks or making sacrifices. It was the love that sees potential and works to help it flourish. It was the love that creates something beautiful together, something that neither person could have created alone. Make sure to subscribe for more stories about love, partnership, and the surprising ways that communication can change everything.